you're a little frustrated, you're looking for some new software, maybe a service for your business, and you land on this company's website. It's been highly recommended. And it is slick. I mean, It's got these beautiful, expensive video backgrounds and a mission statement that sounds, kind of inspiring. But after 15 seconds of just like intense scrolling, you still can't answer the most basic question. What do you actually sell?
Yeah.
And how is it supposed to make my life any better?
Oh, it happens constantly. It's like we live in this epidemic of confusion. And for businesses, that confusion, it's not just, an annoyance for the customer. It is the single most expensive line item on their entire ledger.
Wow.
They are literally paying money for complexity and for being obscure.
Exactly. But there is a way through it. There's a well-tested, really proven methodology for cutting through all that noise. So today, we're taking a deep dive into the StoryBrand SB7 framework. Our mission here is to really dissect this system, which is built on these, ancient principles of storytelling, to understand not just what it is, but why it works and how you can apply it.
And the sources on this are fascinating because they show this framework it's not culturally specific. It works everywhere, universally. It's been used by almost 1 million businesses around the globe. We're talking billion-dollar brands in the U.S., but also startups in Japan, community services in Africa.
So why does it work everywhere?
Because it taps directly into something fundamental, something hardwired into human psychology. It's not about being clever, not at all. It's about being profoundly, powerfully clear.
Which gets us to the core thesis of this whole thing.
It's very
challenging, but I think it's unavoidable. Businesses aren't really in a race to build the most technically superior product. They're in a race to communicate why customers need those products clearly. The brand, with the simple crystalline offer, will beat the brand with the superior but confusing product.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Clarity just wins.
It always wins.
To really get why clarity is so potent, we have to start with human biology. We have to start with the brain. The overriding function of the human brain for all of history has been singular. It's to help the individual survive and thrive. That's it. It's a calorie-conserving machine above all else.
So when a customer is looking at our marketing, their brain isn't sitting there thinking, what interesting information is being presented here? It's scanning. It's asking, does this information, this ad copy, does it help me meet my primitive needs?
Precisely. The brain prioritizes foundational survival needs, full stop. If you use Maslow's hierarchy as sort of a loose reference point, the brain first demands physical survival, food, shelter, a dependable income. Then it moves on to safety, stability, well-being. And only then, only after those are met, does it start allocating resources to things like relationships, finding a mate, belonging to a tribe, and then finally those greater psychological, even spiritual needs that give us a sense of meaning.
And this is exactly where most business messaging just completely goes off the rails. This is why they waste so much money. You invest heavily in this beautiful homepage that just brags about the intricate details of your company. Maybe you're trumpeting that you have the biggest manufacturing plant on the West Coast, or that your proprietary method is patented in 3 countries.
And the customer's brain, the absolute instant it gets that information, it flags it as noise. And it's dismissed.
But why? It's an accomplishment, right?
Because the brag doesn't directly help them survive. Knowing about your big factory doesn't help them secure an income, find a mate, build a tribe, or feel safe. So customers ignore noise. Their brains are constantly actively trying to conserve the cognitive calories required to focus on actual threats or genuine opportunities.
Okay, so if the brain is always asking that one question, how do I survive? That leads us right to the 2 big critical mistakes that brands make when they try to communicate what they do. Mistake number 1. Failing to focus on that fundamental survival dynamic.
Absolutely. Just think about the stories that captivate us for decades, whether it's in a book, a movie, whatever. They are always rooted in a survival theme. It could be physical survival, sure, but also emotional survival, like dealing with grief, relational survival, finding your people, or even spiritual survival, finding meaning. So if you position your products as anything other than a competent aid in helping people survive, thrive, be accepted, find love, achieve some kind of aspirational identity,
you're making them do all the work.
You are forcing the customer to burn calories trying to connect the dots themselves, and they won't do it.
And this isn't just for, epic Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
This applies to something as simple as pet supplies.
Yeah.
We've got this incredible anecdote from the sources about a major brand, Spectrum Brands.
Yeah.
They were struggling to sell their aquariums to families.
Right. They were totally focused on the hobbyists, the fish
Yeah.
enthusiast, a very niche market. And they realized their problem wasn't the product quality, it was the messaging. They were completely missing the deeper survival dynamic at play.
Which was?
The parental desire to nurture their children, to build a cohesive family tribe. So the solution they came up with was, it was just astonishingly simple. They added 3 words to all their packaging and their store signs.
Just 3 words.
Yeah.
And they were.
Mhm.
Kids love aquariums.
That's it.
And those 3 words, they just instantly repositioned the entire product. It became a way to fulfill a parent's deep evolutionary desire to foster family bonds, to nurture their kids, to pass on love.
That simple framing, just connecting the product to a major survival dynamic, it helped the brand nearly double its revenue.
It had nothing to do with the water filtration system. It was all about the family's transformation.
Which brings us right to mistake number 2, lack of clarity. And the analogy we use here is really powerful. It's noise versus music. Now, noise and music are both just traveling sound waves. That's all they are physically. But music is noise that has been submitted to a set of rules. Rules that allow the brain to process it as something pleasurable, memorable, and repeatable.
Right. When a dump truck is backing up, it's just random sound waves. It's noise. Your brain instantly filters it out. You forget it. But when you hear a piece of music, even a complex one, say a Beatles song, your brain engages with the pattern, and you might find yourself humming it all week.
Music is memorable because it has rules. Your marketing has to be music. It has to be clear, simple, relevant, relatable, so simple that your entire team, from the CEO down to the newest intern, can repeat it in a compelling way.
Because if the message is confusing,
Then you're forcing the customer to burn those valuable mental calories just trying to figure you out. And confusion always costs sales.
so to make sure our message is music, we need a filter. And for that, we turn to the ultimate clarity checkpoint, the grunt test.
This is a fantastic concept. A bit humorous, but it is a brutal, brutal filter. The sources explain it perfectly. Could a caveman, looking at your marketing, your website, a brochure, an email, could he immediately grunt the answers to 3 crucial questions within 5 seconds?
And those 3 questions are like the holy trinity of instant clarity. 1, what do you offer? 2, how will it make my life better? And 3, what do I need to do to buy it?
That's it. If you were an aspirin company, the caveman should be able to grunt. You sell headache medicine, me feel better fast, me get it at Walgreens. If he can't answer those 3 things instantly, you are forcing him to burn cognitive calories, and you're losing the sale.
The anecdote about the industrial painting company was just so illuminating here. The owner spent a fortune on this website that was, aesthetically beautiful. It had this fine arts painting of his building, lots of soft focus, links to his history, his nonprofit work, 12 different service lines.
Yes, and the result was that potential clients who were just looking for a simple commercial painting quote, they thought the website belonged to an Italian restaurant.
Italian restaurant.
All that beautiful complexity was completely irrelevant noise. So what was the fix? They wiped the whole thing clean. They put up a large image of a professional in a white lab coat painting and bold text that read, "We paint all kinds of S*%."
And a huge bright button that said, "Get a quote now."
Yeah.
The lesson is just so profound. You're not losing business because your product is bad. You are losing business because you're making your customer work way too hard to figure out what you sell.
Clear.
That simplicity, that singular focus, it stops forcing your clients to process irrelevant information. It conserves those precious mental calories. So we get the stakes now. We see the cost of confusion, the absolute necessity of clarity that's rooted in those survival dynamics. So let's start building that clear message using the SB7 framework, which it itself is rooted in this idea that story is atomic.
Story is the fundamental unit of energy. It's what fuels human action and what holds our attention. And the research backs this up completely. Neuroscientists claim that the average person spends over 30% of their waking time daydreaming.
Wow, 30%.
Less. Unless they're engaged in a story, a good narrative basically does the daydreaming for you. It captures and holds your cognitive resources.
And that intense engagement is why successful storytellers have stuck to the same universal plot structure for literally millennia. It's like the fundamental chords in music, right? You can create infinite songs, but you're still using the same basic notes.
Exactly. So let's lay out the entire SB7 structure right now. The simple, universal plot structure is this. A character has a problem and meets a guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action that helps them avoid failure and ends in a success.
It really is everywhere. The source material points out that when Tom Cruise made Top Gun Maverick, He didn't try to reinvent the wheel. He created what is arguably the most formulaic blockbuster in recent history.
Hmm.
And by sticking so strictly to those 7 core elements, he delivered a story that was instantly digestible, emotionally satisfying, and it resulted in a nearly $1.5 billion box office juggernaut.
The formula just works.
It just works.
And to ground this in the modern business world, we have to go back to Steve Jobs and Apple. After Jobs had that transformative experience working with Pixar, he had this epiphany. Apple's growth hinged entirely on story.
Right, and you can contrast the early messaging, which was so unsuccessful. Before Pixar, Jobs launched the Lisa computer with a 9-page ad in the New York Times, and it was just filled with technical specifications, geek talk, as the source calls it.
And it bombed. Of course it did. It was just confusing noise. But when he came back to Apple, the messaging radically simplified. It became customer-centric. It focused on the story of the user, not the device.
And that culminated in that profound 2-word campaign, Think Different.
Apple's positioning was brilliant. They didn't feature the computers as the hero of the story. They featured the customer's desire to be independent, to be seen, to be heard.
So Apple became the competent guide, like Q in a James Bond movie.
Exactly, offering a tool for the customer, the hero, to express themselves.
The takeaway here is so clear. People don't necessarily buy the best product. They buy the product they can understand the fastest and apply to their own story of survival and transformation.
So now let's unpack that first essential element of the framework.
Okay, SB7 Element 1, a character, the hero. And Principle 1 is, it's a big one. The customer is the hero, not your brand. This is where we all have to swallow our corporate pride and just shift the spotlight completely onto the audience.
Right. And the character must want something. The story doesn't actually begin until that desire is defined. So defining what the customer wants, it instantly puts that central story question in their mind. Can this brand actually help me get what I want? That is the foundation of narrative traction. If they don't know what they want from you, they won't pay attention.
And defining that desire immediately opens up what storytellers call the story gap. You place a gap between the hero and what they want, and the audience's attention, or in this case, the customer's focus, is just magnetically held until that gap closes.
It's a universal phenomenon. It happens when Jason Bourne is trying to figure out his identity, or when a discordant classical sonata finally resolves into harmony.
Even a dad joke.
Even a simple dad joke relies on opening and instantly closing a tiny story gap. In marketing, hunger is the opening of a story gap, and your product is the closing mechanism. It's this magnetic force that drives every action we take and every dollar we spend.
But the critical mistake here, even when you're trying to define the hero, is what the source calls paring down ambition. If you list too many benefits, you confuse the customer, you ruin the narrative.
It's like if Jason Bourne also wanted to lose 30 pounds, teach himself the flute, and adopt a cat.
Right.
The audience would burn too many mental calories just trying to figure out the plot, and that magnetic force would just be lost. You have to define a singular desire and then become known for fulfilling that one specific thing.
And that one desire has to be relevant to the customer's survival or thriving.
Exactly. And the sources break down the essential survival categories that your brand has to participate in.
First up is conserving time. This one gets overlooked a lot, but it's critical. Our customers understand opportunity costs. Can your brand save them time so they can be more productive or, maybe more importantly, spend more time with their family, with their tribe?
Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner succeeded not by selling paper, but by selling the invaluable gift of conserved time and productivity. That's a survival benefit.
The second is building social networks.
Right. This is that innate human desire for acceptance, for nurturing, for a tribal connection. Any organization that thrives on community, a coach builder community, a church, a local running club, is tapping into that fundamental human need for safety within a group.
Third is gaining status. This is such a deep psychological driver. I mean, when luxury brands like Rolex or Mercedes sell a product, they're not just selling a watch or a car. They're selling status as a profound survival strategy.
Status projects abundance. Historically, that attracts allies, it repels foes, and it increases desirability. It's about achieving an aspirational identity that's associated with power and prestige in the social hierarchy.
And finally, showing generosity.
We're not purely self-interested beings. No. Generosity taps into that aspirational identity of being sacrificial, of helping others survive, which paradoxically actually increases our own status and standing within the tribe.
So when the NFL associates with a major charity, they're strategically connecting their brand to that deep desire to contribute to the collective survival story.
That clarity is what matters. The leadership expert who changed his vague tagline, inhale knowledge, exhale success, to the clear, benefit-driven, helping you become everyone's favorite leader. He understood this.
That new tagline instantly connects his service to status, to social networks, to tribe survival.
So the question you, the listener, have to answer is this. What is the single, clear, survival-relevant story question your brand is posing to your customer?
So once we define the character and their singular desire, we have to introduce conflict. SB7 Element 2 has a problem. And Principle 2 is maybe the most fundamental truth in all of marketing.
Which is?
People buy solutions to problems, especially solutions to internal problems.
Identifying the problem is the hook. It immediately widens that story gap we just talked about, and it forces the audience to pay attention. There's this simple truth that, like nearly every paragraph in any engaging novel, contains some element of conflict. Because a good writer knows how to hold your attention.
If you resolve the conflict too early, the audience just walks away.
And to give that conflict focus, to make it personal, storytellers introduce the villain. The villain provides a root cause for the hero's struggle. This increases our sympathy for the hero and deepens the audience's desire for them to win. We need that external force, whether it's the Joker, Voldemort, or just confusing software.
Okay, I have to challenge this for a minute, though. For a small business, maybe a local accounting firm, using the word villain sounds, I don't know, a little aggressive. How do we apply that concept without, fear-mongering or sounding overly dramatic?
That is a crucial point. The villain doesn't have to be a person or some massive global entity. It often works best when it's an abstract force or a status quo that customers just universally disdain. The sources list 5 characteristics of a good marketing villain. 1, it should be the root source of the problem, so bureaucratic red tape, not just high taxes. 2, it has to be relatable, something your customers genuinely dislike. 3, it should be singular. Don't introduce 5 villains. Stick to one clear enemy. 4, it must be real. No fear-mongering. And 5, it doesn't have to be serious. It can be personifying a bad investment strategy or, in sports, just personifying the rival team.
So the villain is just a device to clarify what we're fighting against on behalf of the hero.
Exactly. And that conflict needs to be defined across the 3 levels of conflict that your heroes, your customers are facing.
The first is the external problem. This is the tangible barrier, the physical reality, a leaky pipe, hunger, termites, needing a new car.
And most companies stop right there. They only sell the external solution, the new plumbing service, the food delivery, the car.
But that external barrier, it just exists to manifest the second level.
Which is the internal problem. This is the deeper, more emotional reality, the frustration, the self-doubt, the fear, the inadequacy caused by the external problem. A leaky pipe isn't just a plumbing issue. It makes the homeowner feel irresponsible, embarrassed, or maybe financially vulnerable.
And the source material is absolutely unequivocal on this. The internal desire to resolve a frustration is a greater motivator for a purchase than the desire to solve the external problem.
We see this played out in massive market shifts. Apple didn't win by selling the best computer hardware, not in the early days. They won by solving the internal problem of feeling intimidated and marginalized by complicated technology.
Right. Their marketing positioned their products as this friendly, intuitive way to express yourself. It resolved the customer's internal feeling of inadequacy.
And that leads directly to increased perceived value. I mean, look at CarMax. Externally, they sell used cars. But internally, their marketing focuses relentlessly on alleviating that deep-seated fear and frustration of dealing with a stereotypical used car salesman. The haggling, the lying, the cheating.
By explicitly addressing that fear of being taken advantage of, they entered one of the least trusted industries and created a multi-billion-dollar brand, all by solving an internal emotional problem.
And that is precisely why Starbucks can charge $4 or $5 for a cup of coffee that used to cost 50 cents.
They're not just solving the external problem of needing caffeine.
No, they provide a sophisticated, curated environment where customers feel good about themselves. They resolve an internal desire for status, for sophistication, for a sense of calm competence. When you solve a customer's internal problem, you are no longer competing on price alone.
And the third and final layer is the philosophical problem.
This explains why the story matters in the larger narrative of humanity. It's about the struggle between, say, fairness versus injustice, or honesty versus deception. It gives the product depth and meaning.
So a truly resonant product, it resolves the external problem, It soothes the internal feeling, and it connects the action to some
Mm.
kind of justice-oriented agenda.
Let's apply this, not to a huge corporation, but to a standard local
Okay,
business.
let's take a small local bakery.
Yeah.
The villain isn't necessarily industrial processed food, but maybe it's the rushed, impersonal, low-quality experience.
Okay, so the external problem is just needing a quick breakfast or a dessert.
The internal problem, then, could be feeling guilty about rushing through life, or the frustration of not having a reliable, quality product for a special family moment.
And the philosophical problem could be framed as, in a world of mass-produced, low-quality goods, shouldn't you and your family deserve food that is honest, high quality, and made with true craft?
That framing elevates buying a loaf of bread to a statement about your values.
It works perfectly. And for the classic large-scale examples, let's look at the mapping for Tesla. The villain is gas-guzzling, polluting, stagnant tech. External problem. You need a better, higher-performing car. Internal problem. You want to be an early adopter? Project a progressive, capable identity?
And the philosophical problem, the car you choose ought to help save the environment and push the boundary of performance at the same time.
Or Edward Jones' financial planning. Villain. Large, impersonal firms that don't listen. External problem, you need investment help. Internal problem, you feel overwhelmed and confused.
And the philosophical problem, you deserve a personal financial advisor who thoughtfully and clearly explains things to you.
Layering these three levels of conflict, that's what generates passionate, long-term customer loyalty.
This brings us to a really crucial pivot point in the framework, SB7 Element 3, and meets a guide, Principle 3. Customers aren't looking for another hero, they're looking for a guide. This is the moment for the brand to exercise some humility.
In every story, the hero is inherently weak, often ill-equipped and filled with self-doubt. The guide, on the other hand, is strong, competent, and has been there, done that. The guide has already conquered the hero's challenge in their own backstory.
So the entire narrative focus is always on the hero's transformation, not on the guide's resume.
Which means positioning your brand as the hero, bragging endlessly about our accomplishments and innovations, is a fatal mistake.
Because customers subconsciously see the brand as competition. We're competing for scarce resources, for status.
The customer's thinking, that brand is already great. I'm too busy solving my own problem to listen to their greatness right now. I need a competent servant.
The guide has to live in service of the hero. Think of Mary Poppins. The story is about George Banks transforming from an uncaring father.
Right. Mary Poppins is defined as practically perfect in every way. She doesn't need to transform. She just needs to be strong and competent. So the hero, George Banks, can confidently lean on her authority and experience.
And to be recognized as that indispensable guide, we have to demonstrate two essential characteristics: empathy and competency. Let's start with empathy.
Empathy is the absolute foundation of trust. People trust those who understand their pain. We have to use specific language sound bites, even to express that we care.
This means our marketing has to include explicit empathetic statements, starting with phrases like, "We understand how frustrating it feels too," or, "Like you, we are tired of the status quo and are frustrated by."
Empathy also requires establishing commonality. Are you like me? That instantly conserves the customer's mental calories because they don't have to explain their situation. They immediately think, okay, they get me.
The Discover Card campaign, where customers talk to an exact replica of themselves. That was an almost literal manifestation of this principle. The message was, "We are exactly like you. We share your problems, so we understand the solution."
The second characteristic, competency, is just as vital. A hero needs more than just a sympathetic ear. They need a useful friend. The guide has to have the strength and authority to help the hero win. We only talk about ourselves to support our ability to serve the customer, never just to boast.
And there are 5 easy, quantifiable ways to demonstrate that competency without writing a 10-page thesis on our company history.
First, testimonials. Let other people do the talking. They give potential customers the gift of going second, seeing that people just like them have already succeeded.
And the best testimonials are short. They're focused specifically on the problem that was solved, not just how nice the staff was.
2, statistics. Numeric evidence satisfies that left brain desire for proof. A simple, compelling statement is enough. Like Keep's claim, 125,000 users trust our award-winning automation software. It's fast, it's non-debatable.
3 and 4 are awards and press mentions. Just use small logos or featured by mentions. These are rapid trust cues that customers recognize immediately. They're third-party validators.
And 5, logos. This is especially important in B2B marketing. Placing logos of known businesses you've served provides powerful social proof.
Customers want validation that you have successfully helped others overcome the same challenges they are facing right now.
These competency cues are all designed to help the customer quickly check the trust box in the back of their mind. They're asking, can this guide really help me solve my specific internal problem?
So even when trust and empathy are established, a lot of customers still hesitate. They're standing at the edge of that rushing creek, and they can hear the waterfall downstream.
They're experiencing cognitive dissonance, that fear of making a costly mistake, losing time, money, even their identity.
Which brings us to SB7 Element 4. Who gives them a plan?
And Principle 4 is the antidote to all that hesitation. Customers trust a guide who gives them a plan in the form of simple, manageable baby steps.
The plan is designed to relieve cognitive dissonance by placing these large stones in the rushing creek. It systematically removes perceived risk.
When a potential customer says, let me think about it, they are experiencing internal dissonance. And if we don't resolve that immediately, the momentum is lost and the probability of a purchase just drops dramatically.
So we need to introduce two kinds of plans. The first is the process plan.
This is just the simple sequence of steps required to buy or use your product. The recommendation is highly practical. At least 3 steps to show there's a journey, but no more than 6 to prevent cognitive overwhelm.
A classic illustration is the mattress sales rep. By inserting a simple 3-step plan before asking for the order: 1, choose a mattress. 2, we deliver it. 3, we remove your old mattress. They provided clarity on the entire experience. This removed friction and dramatically increased sales.
Post-purchase plans work too. 1, download the software. 2, integrate with your existing database. 3, revolutionize your customer interaction.
The second is the agreement plan.
This alleviates fears through explicit written promises, often related to shared values. We go back to CarMax, whose 4-point agreement plan includes promises that customers will never have to haggle and that every car earns their quality certification seal.
That directly combats the internal fear of the used car salesman dynamic.
And Whole Foods uses its list of detailed values and sourcing practices as an agreement plan, assuring customers they source food in a socially and environmentally responsible way.
The agreement plan often addresses the philosophical problem head-on.
And what's more, just titling your plan, the Easy Installation Plan, our customer-first quality guarantee, it formalizes the offer and increases its perceived seriousness and stability.
The plan removes hesitation, but we still need that challenge, SB7 Element 5, and calls them to action.
Principle 5. Customers are passive. They will not take action unless they are challenged by an outside force. Passivity is financial failure for the brand.
And this challenge has to be delivered as a clear, direct yes or no request. If we use vague language phrases like, if you're interested, feel free to contact us, we send the customer into this passive whirlwind of confusion. We must never force customers to guess what we want them to do next.
Be assertive, not aggressive. The key is to communicate clearly. Our product will solve your problem. Would you like to place an order now? That clarity empowers the customer. We need to stop acting like we're interrupting them and start acting like we're helping them solve an expensive problem.
So we need 2 types of calls to action. The direct calls to action are the big commitment requests, the marriage proposal.
Right. Buy now, schedule an appointment, order now. These must be obvious, visually distinct, like a brighter color, and repeated frequently. Top right of the navigation, center of the page above the fold.
And the second is the transitional call to action. This is the date. It's the lower stakes commitment that builds trust for an eventual sale.
Examples would be downloading a free PDF guide, watching an informational webinar, or signing up for a free trial.
A strong transitional CTA accomplishes 3 critical tasks. It stakes a claim to your territory as an expert, establishing authority. It creates reciprocity because you're giving value freely. And it positions you as the competent guide, solving a smaller problem for free.
The sources illustrate this power with the example of StoryBrand doubling its workshop revenue in its 2nd year solely by using a transitional CTA, a free PDF called 5 Things Your Website Should Include.
That free information on-ramped thousands of potential customers. It built crucial trust and authority until they were finally ready for the direct ask.
You have to proactively pursue your customers, even if they aren't ready to purchase yet.
Okay, we've motivated the customer to act, but now we need to create true urgency. We need to define the emotional consequences of inaction. SB7 Element 6, that helps them avoid failure. Principle 6, every human being is trying to avoid a tragic ending.
The stakes are what's at play. What will be won, or, more importantly, what will be lost if the hero succeeds or fails. If nothing can be gained or lost, the audience doesn't care. Clearly defining the stakes shortens the customer's decision-making timeline.
And this is where the psychological concept of loss aversion is just paramount.
The research, particularly Daniel Kahneman's prospect theory, proves that people are 2 to 3 times more motivated to act to avoid a loss than they are to achieve an equivalent gain.
The desire to avoid pain is a stronger motivator than the desire for pleasure.
If we only talk about the upside of our product, we are only leveraging half of the psychological equation. We have to paint the negative stakes clearly.
But in a way that doesn't sound pessimistic. It actually increases the perceived value of your solution, because the deeper the hole your hero climbs out of, the more powerful and positive the outcome feels.
For instance, a software subscription service trying to reduce churn, they might not just offer a 20% discount to stay, that's a gain. A more effective use of loss aversion is a warning. If you cancel, you will immediately lose access to all your historical saved data and customized reports, forcing you to start over.
That sudden, specific loss of saved effort is a massive motivator.
Exactly. Similarly, a financial advisor warning against postponing retirement isn't being negative. They are providing critical context that elevates the value of their advice.
So finally, having avoided that tragic ending, we have to cast the vision for the new, successful future. SB7, Element 7, and ends in a success. Principle 7. Never ever assume people understand how your brand can change their lives for the better. Tell them, explicitly.
Successful brands, Nike, Starbucks, Men's Warehouse, they paint a clear, aspirational picture of what life looks like after engagement. The defined success must resolve all 3 problems: the external goal, the internal frustration, and the philosophical injustice.
A really useful tactical tool here is Ryan Deiss's before and after grid. This forces you, as the marketer, to visualize the customer's transformation based on what they have, what they feel, what they do, and what their status is before your brand. And then specifically how those 4 categories are transformed after they engage with your brand.
That clarity provides incredibly powerful, emotionally resonant marketing copy.
And storytellers traditionally resolve conflict in 3 dominant ways, all of which should be explicitly painted in your brand's vision of success.
First, providing greater power or position status. This resolves the external and internal problems by elevating the hero's standing.
This can be achieved by offering exclusive access, like Starbucks rewards, creating scarcity, like a Jeep Limited badge, bestowing premium titles, like Emerald Club, or through identity association, like Mercedes associating with prestige.
You are selling them a new, improved identity.
Second is offering union that makes the hero whole completeness. This taps into that deep emotional need for external provision and safety.
It's symbolized in buddy comedies or romances, where 2 different entities unite to form a complete, competent unit to accomplish a survival objective. Your product completes the customer's competency gap.
And third, facilitating ultimate self-realization or acceptance potential. This is the hero proving themselves, realizing their inner strength, and achieving inner peace. Think of the protagonists in Rudy or Dove's self-acceptance campaign. You're helping them become who they were meant to be.
Ultimately, the deepest motivation driving every single purchase is the universal human desire to transform, to become a better, more capable, more esteemed version of oneself.
Brands that successfully participate in this transformation, like Dave Ramsey's followers celebrating their debt-free scream, they create passionate brand evangelists because they didn't just buy a product, they bought a new identity.
We have spent a significant amount of time deep diving into the philosophical and psychological elements of the SB7 framework. We've populated our brand script with all 7 elements, but as we established at the very beginning, clarity is nothing without execution.
So the transition now is from theory to practical application.
Precisely. Once you have the brand script, your 7 elements documented, what is the first practical document you must produce before you even touch the website, an email, or a brochure?
It has to be the controlling idea.
Step 1. The controlling idea, the moral of the story. This is the single main idea you are communicating, the moral of the story. All subsequent marketing has to submit to this one simple idea. If I spend 2 minutes looking at your materials, I need to understand this idea and be able to repeat it accurately.
You cannot prefer nuance over sound bites. The source references Max Strength Fitness, whose complex resistance workouts were reduced to one idea focused on busy people. Short and challenging workouts with incredible results.
The controlling idea has to be simple, positive, and repeated often, because good messaging, at its heart, is an exercise in memorization. We are aiming for earworms, not doctoral theses.
The danger is trying to tell 3 stories at once. If your customer remembers nothing else, what is the one clear outcome you want them to internalize? That's your controlling idea.
Step 2. Create a one-liner, your elevator pitch. This is your concise statement that summarizes the whole story for immediate intrigue. It has to be so potent that it makes the listener ask, okay, tell me more.
And the one-liner needs to communicate 4 key ideas. Who is the customer? What is their problem? What is your plan? And what is the outcome?
It's like a successful movie logline. It encapsulates the entire plot, promises entertainment, and makes you want to know more.
For working parents who are tired of chaos and confusion problem, our 3-step focus system plan helps them finally reclaim control over their time and energy outcome.
That clarity is the social currency that drives referrals.
Step 3. Wireframe an effective landing page. Your website is your ultimate sales pitch. It has to move customers logically through the 3 stages of a relationship. Curiosity, then enlightenment, understanding what you offer, and finally, commitment, the call to action.
And we need to use specific visual practices to achieve this. 5 best practices apply. First, the offer above the fold. The single most important message has to be immediately visible, short, bold, and customer-centric, like Squarespace's clear statement, "We help you make beautiful websites."
Second, obvious calls to action. We have to follow the Z pattern of eye movement. The direct CTA, the buy now or schedule consultation button, it has to be the most visually distinct element, a brighter color, and you place it at the top right and in the center of the fold. If they have to hunt for the purchase button, you lose them.
Third, use images to display success. Stop showing pictures of your empty facilities or your complex machinery. Show images of happy customers using the product, or even better, customers after the transformation, the successful outcome.
Fourth, provide a clear menu of products. If you're a service company, you must package those services. For example, the 1-year maintenance package or the VIP coaching bundle. Turn them into discrete, understandable products with tiered pricing.
And fifth, use very few words. Write it in Morse code. People scan web pages they do not read. If you need extensive, detailed information for due diligence, use an explanatory paragraph further down the page with a small read more link so you don't overwhelm the customer with dense text when they arrive.
The wireframe structure itself must logically follow the story path we've detailed. It includes 8 essential sections in narrative order. The header, large offer repeated CTAs. The stakes, negative consequences, the hook. The value proposition, reiterate the positive value. The guide, empathy and competency cues. The plan, the 3-step process. The explanatory paragraph for due diligence. The lead generator ad, your transitional CTA. And finally, the junk drawer, legal, history, all the secondary links.
The website literally walks them through the story, removing friction at every single turn.
Step 4. Create a lead generator and collect contact info. This is your transitional call to action offering enormous value in exchange for an email or text contact. It must immediately establish you as the competent, generous guide.
The key here is offering something so valuable that the customer experiences immediate reciprocity. They feel like they owe you something simply because you solved a small problem for them for free.
The 5 most effective types are a downloadable guide, like that successful 5 things your website should include, PDF, an online course or webinar, software demos or free trials which let them experience the transformation, free samples, or live events like free educational workshops.
Step 5. Create an automated email or text drip campaign. The power of this step lies in consistent, simple repetition. The sources detail the publisher warehouse story, how simply receiving envelopes with the company logo, even if they were unread, branded the company into the customer's mind.
And text messaging works the same way. The example of Hank's belts texting daily, it wasn't annoying, it was staking a claim on mental real estate so that when the customer inevitably needed a belt, Hank's came to mind immediately. This is all about nurturing the relationship.
The recommended approach is the nurture campaign using a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 nurture emails that focus on value and trust building, followed by 1 sales email that focuses on the direct offer and CTA.
And the nurture email requires a specific value-driven formula to maximize trust. It should have 4 paragraphs plus a PS. Paragraph 1 discusses the problem the customer is facing. Paragraph 2 offers a plan or an idea solution for free. Paragraph 3 describes the solved life and the aspirational outcome if they followed that idea. And paragraph 4 summarizes the free idea with a clear 3-step plan.
And the PS is just used to softly remind them about the direct CTA.
The sales email, conversely, is direct. It asks for the order and also uses 4 paragraphs. Talk about the persistent customer problem. Describe how your product is the ultimate solution. Describe the solved life and outcome, that vision of success, and then give a strong CTA, including price or a discount, and ask for the order directly. No vague, passive language allowed.
Finally, we need to systemize word of mouth. Step 7. Create a system that generates referrals. Word of mouth is incredibly effective. Referrals are up to 2.5 times more responsive than other channels, yet so few businesses actually systemize the process.
We have to actively ask for referrals. Some strategies include offering specific bonuses or discounts for successful referrals, giving customers a helpful tool like a branded video or a simplified PDF of your service to pass along to friends. That's easier than asking for their contacts directly. And automating the reward system via affiliate programs.
The real-world example of the Test Prep Academy offering a 100% refund for 3 successful referrals just shows the sheer financial incentive of this strategy. These systems turn your happy customers into passionate brand evangelists who are actively spreading your clear, memorized message.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. From the neurological imperative of survival all the way to the tactical requirements of a 7-part nurture campaign. But the fundamental lesson, it just remains consistent. Stop confusing your customers and start inviting them into a better story.
Your messaging has to be clear. It has to be customer-centric. They are the hero. And it must be rooted in their deepest desire for survival and transformation. The SB7 framework provides the discipline filter you need to cut out all the noise and all that irrelevant corporate bragging.
So the immediate next step for you, the learner, is to apply the grunt test to your own marketing right now. Could a caveman immediately grunt the answers to, what do you offer? How will it make my life better? And what do I need to do to buy it?
Because if a customer is confused, they are burning calories and you are losing money.
So here's the provocative thought to mull over as we close this deep dive. The ultimate goal is not just to sell a product. It's to sell a complete transformation, a new identity.
If the customer does not change, if they don't become a better, more capable version of themselves, the brand has fundamentally failed its mission.
So think about who specifically your customer wants to become after they engage with your product.
That ability to keep the formula clear, yet unique to that specific aspirational transformation, that is what separates a good marketer from a truly brilliant